So I received a lot of questions regarding how I balance training for boxing while also trying to build muscle and progress in the weights room. So I thought today, during this video, I'll take you through some evidence-based advice for hybrid athletes, i.e. the sort of athletes that have physique but also performance or sporting goals. Yes, results are probably going to be better by just focusing on either muscle building or endurance alone, as at one point that they will detract from each other. For example, if you're training with weights 6 times a week for 2 hours per session, the fatigue accumulation is going to prevent you from performing optimally in your sport-specific training. Likewise, if you're doing extremely high volumes of endurance training, it's likely to suppress some of the anabolic stimulus from your weight training, as well as prevent you from lifting heavy and recovering adequately. So tip 1 is to split your weight training and your sport-specific or cardio training between the AM and the PM. With a longer gap, the better. For example, for me, today I lifted weights at 8 AM and I'll be boxing at 6:30 PM tonight. It's smart to split your sessions in this way to prevent what's called the interference effect. Basically, weight training causes an anabolic stimulus while cardio causes a catabolic one. And doing them together has a potential to cancel out some of the net anabolic effects. So tip 2 is to have a high carbohydrate meal just before your sessions, roughly 1 hour. And it's actually more important to have a carbohydrate-rich meal before your sport-specific or your endurance training, because this sort of training actually demands more muscle glycogen than weight training does. So by having a carbohydrate-rich meal before those sessions, it allows you to go into training with a high level of blood glucose, which means your muscle glycogen, the thing that keeps your muscles basically full and also anabolic, becomes spared because you can oxidize the carbohydrates from your bloodstream as opposed to from your muscle. Now, we don't want to have critically low glycogen levels for too long, especially during endurance training, because if that happens, we start relying on muscle proteins for energy. So I'm going to take you through a super simple high carbohydrate pre-training meal. I'll be having this before I go to boxing in just over an hour, and it doesn't take a lot of time, tastes good, it digests really quite well, and it's got sort of covers all your bases in regards to a pre-training carbohydrate meal. So first step is to just give a light spray with cooking oil around the inside of the ball so it doesn't stick. Alright, so first ingredient we've got is 50 grams of apple. I'll just slice that up. I'm going to add 80 grams of quick oats. Too much, oops. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Right, next we've got 50 grams of almond milk. Actually going to do 100 grams. Then the remainder up to 320 grams is going to come from boiling water, which is boiling now. Then next step, we've got the whey protein isolate, using the bulk nutrients, 2 scoops. Now we add the remainder of the boiling water. Add some cinnamon. Oh shit. Bit of salt. Then some stevia. We just mix it around. final thing is put some berries over the top. Now once that's ready, we'll bring it around to the oven. And on 190 degrees for about 25 minutes. So tip 3 is intra-workout carbohydrates. Now it has a similar rationale as the pre-workout meal, but consuming carbohydrates during your endurance and sports training session allows you to maintain an adequate carbohydrate level in the blood so the body doesn't start having to scavenge carbs and proteins from your muscle to support the activity. So having a high blood glucose level during training has also been shown to directly improve exercise performance. Now, if you're training for an hour or more, specifically endurance style training, it's probably pretty smart to be consuming around 1 gram of carbohydrates at least per kilogram of body weight. Now, I'm calorie restricted at the moment, so I'm only going to be doing half of that. I'm going to be taking 50 grams of carbohydrates during my boxing session, but if ultimate muscle maintenance was the goal, I'd be going with around 1 gram. If you're training for less than an hour or doing just weight training, intra-workout carbs probably aren't that necessary because those forms of training just aren't very glycogen depleting. So we again using the bulk carbohydrate supplement to recuperate. So I'll be using, I'm getting 50 grams of carbs coming from here. It's about 1 scoop. I'll just shake that up and I'll take the boxing and I'll just sip on it throughout my session. So tip 4 and the final tip, just while we wait for the pre-workout meal to cook, is to consume a protein and carbohydrate rich meal as soon as you can after your hard endurance workouts. Even with some intra-workout carbohydrates consumed like we're doing, it's likely that your blood glucose and muscle glycogen levels will be depleted, and if not corrected, this can cause you to slip into negative protein balance or otherwise a catabolic state. Now, consuming protein with the carbs during your post-training meal also means the recovery processes are kick-started as soon as possible. It's also smart to keep your fats low in your post-training meal as well as your pre-training meal, because fats don't enhance recovery or glycogen replenishment, plus they slow the transport of glucose into the bloodstream where we actually need it. Here we have the finished product. You can see that it's risen a lot like a cake to give it a bit more volume. Now, just top it with a little bit of sugar-free maple syrup, and that will go down a treat. Right, pre-workout meal is done. We got about 30 minutes until boxing. So we'll meet you in the boxing gym in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, we're trying to theme the sessions with Jackson. He's a more compact boxer, a lot of muscle, and what we're trying to do is reserve energy with good movement but minimal movement with exertions. So with Jackson's makeup of his body, he's a mid-range, short-range fighter, so if he was to box somebody who's long-range, he's got to get their arms into the body so he can really work to his strengths, not a long-range boxer's strengths.
This video was about hybrid athletes, so training for like building muscle and for also athletes who have like sporting goals. Do you think muscle is helpful for boxing or takes it away from it?
It can be, if it's not managed, you can fatigue very quickly, but if it's managed and you can strategize that in a gym and work the pads and the bags in a way that's going to be of a benefit for you, and then you can assess that and you can try little tweaks with various programs that you can put into the gym, I think the results can be very, very good.